algorithm. This simply takes into account what seams you have marked, which we'll get into in a little bit. The process. Cube is already unwrapped. These are different unwrap algorithms that we can use. Unwrap is your standard unwrap algorithm. This simply takes into account what seams you have marked, which we'll get into in a little bit, and unwraps your mesh accordingly. Smart UV Project is one of my favorites and is great for unwrapping things quickly and roughly. Lightmap and Follow Active Quads are similar but have their own algorithms. Cube, cylinder, and sphere projection are algorithms most fitted for objects similar in shape to the name of the algorithm. Project from View is a very powerful tool that essentially takes what you see in the viewport and flattens it as your UV map. This is a very basic way of unwrapping your mesh and will not hold up from different perspectives, but can be used selectively to great effect. Project from View Bounds simply stretches the resulting UV across the UV editor. I'm going to demonstrate this one real quick, so let's go ahead and select Project from View. As you can see, the image as you can see in our UV editor, now you may have noticed that we can't get the original map already unwrapped. So let's go over exactly how to use the loops where you specify clicking images as where we want to cut open the mesh and go to the unwrap menu. My thought process. The arms of the cross we see in the UV map are these for one connected edge, so I marked seams on the 3 other edges of each of these figures. As you work with your own meshes, you'll get a feel for what seems to work best for you to get the UV map shape you want. Sorry, I have to mute a bunch of times. So is there a way to sew this? Stitch. Oh, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Alright. Sometimes I like to UV this way. Easier. So, I'll just paste this missing. Sure. Oh. So can I go? What's that stitch? V? No. V. Oh, fuck. Was it V? Shortest path selection. Is it B? Yeah, B. Cool. What is this doing? What is it doing? Just preview? So I can right click it. So do it. It's like a preview? What are my options from this? Limit? I don't know what that means. All farts. B, click. Emojis. Put that back to 3, I don't know what that means. That's cool. This is typically how I do V. Oh, so U3 loop. Sometimes I don't know what I should do. See, now it's come up. Why do that? So smart projection. UV. Smart UV project. Mute this problem. Straight. Delete. G select. Usually go to V. See, why does it? Why is it moving it? It should be the same. V looped. G. Where is it? That's weird. 90. Here. Oh, I see. It's a little different. That's why it's scaling down. That's not a very smart project. Alright, let's go back to UV. 3 L 3 there's A UV. I wonder. Let's go. Do it. Oh, because it erased the scenes before when I stitched it. Alright, that's making sense. Okay, so what if I do this? And now I mark the seam, which I think would have a hotkey. Does it? But I don't, this shouldn't start going down here. This should be straight. So why is it even?
Now that we've finished the modeling, the real fun can be internet window. It's called out making way we can West song. I know you ain't getting that kind of from that local dude. Is what our mesh looks like, and you can see that is only half of it because the other half is the mirror model. We'll apply it down. You're going to click mark, and it doesn't really matter because this is like an object which, looking at reference, you can see that there's like a texture on the front, and then as it goes to the top there's a different texture there. So if I had to guess, I think these pieces are veneer, but I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. I don't know. But either way, it doesn't really matter where we put the seam. However, I like to generally put, so that one part of our chair. And it's now a good time to, I guess, check whether or not it's done properly. So you should add an image that you can actually, this is how you would mine. But in your material, we've done that. Stretched or whatever, then that means you're probably going to have stretching in your texture. So that's why it's the UV grid, because it have done it correctly. And then from this little drop down here that you can't even see the name of the box, click that, and then you should see one called Untitled. And now that we've done that, click that little dot next to it. I know this over here, space, hitting F. Okay, so you can see that. But anyways, point is that the texture. Who cares about them? All right, let's just fix this. I'll rotate one piece and then Sharon the next piece. X, Y, Y. There we go. And then the same for this one that's in the background. Hang on. Oh, come on. Oh, actually, this is a good idea to, who cares? We kind of need a little bit more because this is an interesting game, and I reckon hit you and then select unwrap. Okay, so this shows us, if we were to have a look, we have to give it the material. I'll select that, Control L to select the last object, and then copy the material. So you can see with this, we've got stretching, horrible stretching, which means we are not done by far, especially at the top here. Gosh, that's terrible. So there's no seam that goes down here. So yeah, we'll give one right there. Control E, mark seam. That should clear it up a lot. Okay, it has. That's good. You know what? I'm just going to give a seam right here, even though, I mean, you can only do so much, right, without like spending hours on it. If a client was like, we cannot have a seam there, then yeah, you'd like fart around with a bunch of things, and you'd have a blast doing it, I'm sure. But look at that. That's really pretty well done it, I think. Oh, and then of course we also have the seams that it's like a gift from God. It's like, we have an actual seam in our real object to help us. It's like, it's a constant game of like, how few seams can I get away with, because the seams are generally undesirable. And then when the model gives you one for free, the reference gives you one for free, it's like, yes. So unwrap, now I think we're on track. Okay, now in this case, you can see we have horrible stretching. So this is our wonderful subsurf modifier trying to help us out. But just like, when you had that face that was here along the slat, right? And it was like stretching that weird shading artifact. It's doing the exact same thing here. So you just select something like that whole edge, and then you just give it a seam. So actually, let's go material preview and you can see what's happening. Shift E, and ta-da! It's now made it basically sharp, essentially. It's tightened up the graphics. just like one half placing will apply it. Anyways, so imagine themes, it can actually save you time because you only have to do that. All right, let's make these not familiar with 3D. They were like, yeah, that's bad. But guys, check it out. We're coming up on 20 minutes, so you know what that means. Homework. That's what that means. We've run out of time to do the rest. But thankfully, for one, come on. You didn't really expect me to UV unwrap that one. Come on, you knew that one was going to be homework. This one, hey, give it a good old thought on how you could actually UV unwrap this. Again, it's for one, definitely we ran out of time, but also it's going to really by giving yourself a challenge rather than following a tutorial, it's really where the real learning happens on your screen. And we will finish off the UV unwrapping.
So started doing this. Or maybe there's just a weird seam line in your normal map that's giving you a frustrating headache. Hello, I'm Thomas, and in this video, I'm going to help you troubleshoot some of the common problems you might face while working with textures and materials in Blender. These tips are especially useful if you're working with what's occurring on your model. Now, this is fairly common knowledge, but I just wanted to bring applications such as Substance Painter, or if you're trying to use Blender in your game development pipeline. The first tip is to display UV stretching. In Blender, by default, you can bring up a color filter that will display where any UV stretching is occurring on on your model. Now, this is fairly common knowledge, but I just wanted to bring it up because this feature has had a tendency to move around between different versions of Blender. As of 2.83, you can find this feature by going into edit mode, going to the UV editor, under View, Display, Overlays, and then hitting the checkbox next to stretching. As you can see, this will bring up a color map which will display where any stretching is occurring, with dark blue indicating no stretching and steadily progressing from green to orange and red. Red to indicate the intensity of warp that is going on your UVs. The second tip is to apply transformations such as scale and rotation. Now, anytime you adjust the scale or rotation in object mode instead of edit mode, you need to apply these transformations. Otherwise, when you go to unwrap your model, it'll come out looking like this. And on top of that, these changes will not show up in UV stretching. As you can see, this whole UV face is completely squashed, but it does not show any UV stretching. This happens because Blender doesn't update or change any of the units of measurement on your mesh when you make changes in object mode. Therefore, it doesn't recognize the size difference when you go to unwrap. If this is your issue, simply go back into object mode, hit Ctrl A, and apply rotation and scale. Now, when we go back into edit mode, hit unwrap, problem and scale. Now, when simply go back into object mode, hit Ctrl A, and apply rotation and scale. Now, as another quick tip and a best practice when you're 3D modeling, always hit the checkbox for backface culling. Yeah, this can save you some headaches later on. Simple fix. Shift N to recalculate normals. The next tip is how to use UV-safe transformations after you've already textured your model. Typically, certain transformations such as bevel or adding loop cuts won't add any distortion to your UVs. However, when you try to move a loop cut such as this, you can see that by just dragging it up and down, it's distorting our UVs pretty badly. Now, say I wanted to add a few extra edge loops on this model. Now, to do that, I could just add in a loop cut like this, and then double-click G and move it up or down. As you can see, this isn't creating any UV distortions. This can be very useful for adjusting the topology on a number of environment assets, such as vegetation. The next few tips are all about number of environments or down. Now, to do that, I could just add in a loop cut like this badly. Now, say I wanted to add a few extra edge loops on this model. Now, to do that, I could just add in a loop cut like this, and then double-click G and move it up or down. As you can see, really ugly seam maps and all the ways you can mess them up. To start with, have you ever dropped in your normal map and then noticed that you have one really ugly seam line, usually at the same marking where you cut your UVs? Well, this is pretty simple. Just go to your normal map and be sure that it's set to non-color data. Okay. So we no longer have an ugly seam line, But the shading is looking pretty messed up. As you can see, the light isn't moving correctly across our model. Now, this is likely because you're trying to use a DirectX normal. Blender uses an OpenGL workspace. However, if you only have a DirectX normal available and can't export an OpenGL one, there's an easy way to fix this. All we have to do value is using separate RGB several texture maps import. However, we can use a multi-channel RGB texture like we would if we were working in Unreal Engine. So, the separate values of these. Let's say you want to switch out weapon skins. Select one part of the gun that's using the material you want to switch out. Then hit Shift L to select everything linked to the same material. Now, in the Materials tab, select the new material you want to switch to. As you can see, it's only applied to the primary object you have selected. We can copy it to all objects by hitting Ctrl-L and selecting Materials. There you go. Now you have an awesome new Elite Gamer skin. Okay, so maybe this skin isn't dank enough for you. Well, that's okay. Go into Substance Painter, create a new skin, export it to the same location as the previous one, and then in the shader editor, hit Alt-R to refresh the texture. Now that's dank. As an added bonus, there are a number of both free and paid add-ons for Blender that will really help speed up the texturing and UV unwrapping workflow. I'll link to a few of my favorites in the description below. Well, thanks for watching, and when I post another
add seams all the way around it. And now, check it out, the final unwrap, and there it is.
Hello there, my name is Iswas. So that first turn off the subdivision, create a new one, and give it. What I would do is you don't really have control out with a simple UV like this. You can see it gives. What you should do is hit U on your keyboard and then start by Smart UV projection. You start out with a simple UV like this. You can see it gives you very unstretched UVs, but the problem is it just puts seams everywhere, and you don't really have control over it as squares. So if you want to have better UVs, you start out with UV by hitting U and start with a Smart UV projection, and then has it changed? Let me make sure that I have not changed anything. Start out with a Smart UV's projection, and then go under in your UV settings, mark as seams from islands. So this will create seams for you using the islands that you generated using Smart UV. We have a seam here. We would like this part here, the selected part, to be its own island without these separation.